Hey people. Hi people. What does Shawn Mendes say? Is it hey or hi? I don't know.
Wow. Hey, people.
Today we're talking about books. More specifically, my favorite books. I'm getting ready for this academic thing, this academic celebration, and so I was like, oh, I'm feeling kind of scholarly. Let's talk about my favorite books as I finish getting ready. Here's my list if you want to see if you want the syllabus or the agenda. First, let's start with Tuesdays with Morrie. This book, genuinely life-changing for me. I recommend this to literally every single person that ever asked me for a book recommendation, which isn't many because kids these days don't read. Shut up. Tuesdays with Morrie, it's just, in general, it is just like a really quick read, very easy, very great storytelling, and it's a memoir about Mitch Albom, and he reconnects with one of his old professors. Morrie is the sociology professor. Morrie has been diagnosed with ALS, and if you don't know what ALS does, basically like nerve cells break down and like they weaken your muscles to the point where it kills you. Like it slowly paralyzes you basically, and you're losing functions in your muscles. And your heart is a muscle, so like it weakens those muscles to the point where your body can no longer function. Basically, they reconnect. Morrie has ALS, and he's like, Mitch, you were one of my favorite students, and I want to meet with you every Tuesday so I can teach up until my last breath, right? So every Tuesday they have these like lectures, but instead of like a sociology lecture, it's more like Morrie is explaining to Mitch his views on death and the way that he approaches death. I really love Mitch Albom's writing style. I've read a couple of his other books, and I think he'd be one of my top authors. I think he'd be one of my top authors. Well, I mean, I guess authorism is like, I think, synonymous to being an artist, because there is an art to writing. But anyways, I really like his style, and when you read Tuesday with Morrie, as Mitch is creating this relationship with Morrie, so are you as a reader. You feel like you're getting to know Morrie yourself, and it's great, and you know he's gonna pass away at the end, but I still cried. I cried really hard. I think my favorite books are ones that make me cry. But yeah, it kind of like, it just like reshaped the way that I went about my life, I think. I'm not saying that this book is going to change you and it's going to change your outlook, but I think it just will make you think. But yeah, and then in my little review, I also wrote at the bottom like pages with my favorite quotes. So for Tuesdays with Morrie, I have page 105 and 127, and I'm hoping that these just like little lines will make you guys be interested in the novel and want to read it yourself. So this is Morrie, and he's talking to Mitch, and he says, Mitch, if you're trying to show off for people at the top, forget it. They will look down on you anyhow. And if you're trying to show off for people at the bottom, forget it. They will only envy you. Status will get you nowhere. Only an open heart will allow you to float equally between everyone. I love that. I just like the idea of like, don't curate your personality to appease other people or to cater to other people. Just be yourself, and then the right people that will come into your life are people that love you for who you are. That's it. And I think that's awesome. So yeah, Tuesday with Morrie. Next up, we have every 9th grade English project. The Great Gatsby. I don't really like love classics. The classics that I have tried to read, they're just a bit heavy for me. Not so much heavy in like content, but heavy in verbiage. It's just like, oh my god, it's droning on and on. Of course, I think it's important to study those pieces, right? Because they are a part of history, but it's like, it's just not for me. I would never reread them. This, on the other hand, I have reread 3 times, which that doesn't really sound like a lot, but I reread it once a year because I like it, and I feel like every time I reread it I find something new about it. And typically I don't enjoy an unreliable narrator like this one, but I think an unreliable narrator makes this book that much more perfect. And if you don't know the plot of The Great Gatsby, that's totally fine. Let me tell you it to you really quick. It's narrated by this guy named Nick, and he like kind of gets involved with his cousin Daisy's life, and then there's this neighbor, and his name is Gatsby, and Gatsby is in love with Daisy, and then Nick is kind of sitting here like watching all this go down. Daisy's married, by the way, and Gatsby's like this super rich, flamboyant person, and he's like, there's these awesome parties, and he's like, Daisy, come look at all the stuff that I have that I could give you. Daisy, come love me. And then he like turns her into an object to like win. The novel is just a big critique on the American dream and the corruption of the rich. I think that's like why it's perfect to have an unreliable narrator, is because the American dream is also unreliable, and I think that's like a symbol. And also it's like basic as shit, but there's like a green light from across the pond, and like green symbolizes envy, and Gatsby sees it, and it's like Gatsby believed in the green light because this green light is this like goal to go to, and this goal is Daisy. I love it. I love it so much. I just really like this one. I think if you want to start getting into classics and you've never read The Great Gatsby, or if you have read it and it was like 8 years ago or something like that, pick it up again. This is like a little outtake from one of Nick's observations at Gatsby's parties. And again, just like Gatsby's parties are like these huge ordeals. There's tons and tons of people. So here is what he says about it. People disappeared, reappeared, made plans to go somewhere, and then lost each other, searched for each other, found each other a few feet away. I think it's a good symbol for life and the way that we lead our lives, right? You can make all these plans and imagine all these people in your life in the future, and then when it actually happens and you actually go through the steps, things change. There's a dynamic aspect to being a person. Humans are dynamic creatures. We're changing, and sometimes we outgrow people and sometimes people outgrow us. But sometimes you find your way back to each other and the timing isn't right. And I'm not saying this as like love and relationships, but more so just like friendships even. I think friends can grow apart and grow back together. And I don't know, there's something about that passage that I really enjoy. So, book number 2, Great Gatsby. Okay, so the third book we're going to talk about is Oscar Wilde, A Picture of Dorian Gray. And this book is another like classic, if you want to call, I don't know. I feel really pretentious when I'm like, it's a classic novel. Like, girl, shut the fuck up. Basically, this book is about this guy, Dorian Gray, and he's like a pretty boy. He gets his portrait done and he sees himself, and he's like, wow, I'm so beautiful. I'm so beautiful. I wish I would never age. I wish I would keep my looks and just like stay pretty, right? And then his wish comes true. And instead of him aging, the portrait ages. And so Dorian Gray is a horrible person. He does a bunch of horrible stuff throughout his life, and it really is revealed on the canvas. Like, his canvas starts to rot and decay, and like, obviously it starts small. It's like, oh, a couple wrinkles here, a couple wrinkles there. But then, like, the worse his soul becomes, the more disgusting the portrait becomes. You don't like a single character in the book. And you're like, oh, well, that doesn't sound fun. Like, why would I want to read a book where I don't root for a single character? Because I think that's the whole point of this book, is to show that humans are flawed and nobody's perfect. And even though, like, Dorian Gray is seemingly perfect from the outside, I mean, he's got a lot of shit going on. This quote was said by one of the characters that I actually really don't like, one of my least favorite ones from the book. But I did unfortunately agree with what he said here. And he says, "You will always be loved, and you will always be in love with love." This idea of love being all around, and the fact that it's like proliferated within every aspect of your life, I think when you sit back and people watch, and when you just get off your phone, love is everywhere, you know? It's within you. I love the trees, I love the green grass, I love the moon, I love the sun, I love the sunlight, I love the rain sometimes when it rains. There's so much love within me for other people and for objects and for nature and for earth and for human rights, right? But then when you observe other people, you can see the little things that they love, right? You see someone with a purple water bottle and a purple phone case and purple headphones, and you're like, they love purple, right? I think it's just really, really cool. I've been getting a lot better at like looking up throughout life. I used to walk around just kind of looking at the ground, so you didn't have to make eye contact with people, because I hate the like weird little smile that you do when you make eye contact with people. But now I've come to just like love it. I love the human interaction, and I love when you see someone smiling because they're having a genuinely good day, and it just makes you feel a little bit better. So anyways, I love this idea that love is everywhere. So yeah, that's epic. Picture of Dorian Gray. The next one we have is another memoir, and it's When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. He's a neurosurgeon, and he's diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And so the memoir is basically, he takes us through his journey from going from a med student to a doctor to patient. And I think that transition between doctor and patient is really interesting. I think his determination kind of bled from his veins to the page to ours. And then you kind of be determined, you know, as you're reading, you're like, he's gonna fight this, he's gonna overcome stage 4, it's gonna be great, he's gonna, you know, be in remission, and it'll all work out. And then the epilogue is written by his wife, which is a wonderful detail. This is a good one. It occurred to me that my relationship with statistics changed as soon as I became one. I think that line perfectly explains what he was going through. Also, here's Paul. But I think this line also is broadly applicable to anybody going through something tragic, but also like women. What's the percentage? I think it's like 81 or 82% of women have been sexually assaulted or harassed, like nationwide within America. And it just, there's a sense of community, you know, when you become a statistic, you're kind of like, it's a bit dehumanizing, but at the same time you're like, okay, well, there's other people that have been through this as well, so there's definitely a community that I can, you know, reach out to and find solace in. So two sides of the coin there, you know. No one ever wants to become a statistic, but if you do, you know, it's a statistic for a reason. There's other people that have been through it, and you're not alone, and I think that's important. So great memoir, great read, great book. Also, do you think I should wear a belt? You can't see. Hold on. Do you think I need a belt with this? I think I do, to break it up, since it's black to black to black. Anyways, the next book is My Policeman by Bethan Roberts. Bethan. Let me preface this. I did find out about this novel via the casting of Harry Styles as Tom, the policeman. I did. But I really wish I didn't. Because, okay, obviously, I love Harry Styles. Obviously, I'm a Harry Styles fan. Obviously, I loved One Direction. I wanted to see the movie as a Harry Styles fan, but I wanted to read the book before the movie. As I was reading, the only people I could imagine as these characters was Emma Corrin, Harry Styles, and David Dawson. And that was like pissing me off, because usually when I read, obviously I make up these own little people. So I was like, boy, what the hell? So I did originally buy this book and read it with the intention of seeing the film because of Harry Styles. I will admit that. Yes, I didn't know about it before, but I wish I did, because this book is so good. Do you want the plot? Let's give you the plot first, and then I'll talk about my thoughts. Set in the 1950s, and this is very important because in the 1950s, queerness was like so taboo. Set in the 1950s, this girl, Marion, falls in love with this boy, Tom, okay? But then Tom meets Patrick. Tom and Patrick meet in a museum. They fall in love. They're like, oh my god, babe, hey y'all. But then Tom and Marion, they get married. And Patrick's just over here yearning. And then Tom and Patrick keep seeing each other. Tom and Marion, yes, they're married, but like, Marion's obsessed with Tom. Tom doesn't give a fuck about Marion, he just likes Patrick. Anyways, oh, also Tom is a policeman, and so that's why it's called My Policeman, because it's like, it's my policeman as in like they're fighting over Tom, but also my policeman as in a reader. Tom is our policeman. Well, kind of similar to Gatsby and The Picture of Dorian Gray, you don't really like any of the characters. They're all annoying in their own little ways, but my favorite character was definitely Patrick. I think Patrick deserved better. There's also this side character named Julia, and I love her too. I've read this book twice as well, and what I like to do when I go back and I read things twice is I like to oh wait, that's a spoiler. Wait, I don't know what to show you that isn't a spoiler, but basically I like to go back and read, and I annotate my books. I write notes and stuff in the margins, and so if I go and reread it, I'll use a different colored pen so that I can see like the progression of my thoughts and my connections that I make as I keep rereading. So that's awesome. Right, moving on. The next book we're talking about, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I read this book like 2022. I read this book 3 years ago. So really, like, my brain isn't fresh on it, so, you know, take this review with a grain of salt. But this review was written from what I remember of it. Here's the plot. So this girl, Addie, she makes a bargain with a dark spirit, or like death personified, or Luke. His name is Luc, so you can say Luke. I read it as Luke, but you know, I could be wrong. I think it's supposed to be Luce, for like a little shortened nickname for Lucifer, but wait, fuck. I think it's Luce. Okay, whatever. So she makes a bargain with death personified, and basically she is immortal, but the catch is that nobody can remember her. Like she can hang out with people and then but then like after a couple hours they forget her, or like she'll spend the night with somebody and in the morning the people have no idea who she is, until one day she meets this guy named Henry, and he's able to remember her, and she's like, well, what the fuck? They fall in love because it's like the first person that remembered her over hundreds of years. And then you find out that like Henry's dying, and he also made a bargain with Luce, and la 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 la, and then you see something that happens. There's like a twist at the end, a really interesting twist that I didn't predict. I had no idea, and maybe I'm just stupid and I didn't connect the dots, because there were a lot of hints as you read it about the plot twist, but I didn't fucking get there myself. So when I read it, I was like, gah, what the fuck? So, pretty good. And I really like the writing. I think the storytelling was really good. That's something big for me, is writing. Good writing, I'll read it. No matter what it's about, I will read it. Also though, in general, I really, really like books that personify death or the devil, or they kind of humanize these like big dark powers and they just kind of make them normal, kind of like the Book Thief. This line I think is a really cool way to like take a feminist approach to the story, how like first Luce is the one that controls her life, and then Henry is here, and now she wants to change her life so she can be with Henry, and it's just about like the way that men kind of control Addie's life, but at the same time she manipulates the men to suit her. So you know, it's a cool approach. So here's the line. The darkness claimed he had given her freedom, but really there is no such thing for a woman. Not in a world where they are bound up inside their clothes and sealed inside their homes, a world where only men are given leave to roam. I really, really love these. If you read any of them, let me know. I'm interested to see your thoughts, to see if you liked them, you hated them, why not? But now we're gonna get into my 2 honorable mentions that I want to talk about. The Yellow Wallpaper. So this isn't like a book. This isn't like a book or a novel, or this is just a short story. But basically it's a short story of these journal entries of a woman, and she's been diagnosed with hysteria, and her husband is a doctor. And basically they go to this like summer house, and he's like, okay, you just need to write and rest and relax and your mind will be fine. Also, she just had a baby, so she's suffering from postpartum depression, but like apparently that diagnosis didn't exist back then. When was this? I think the 19th century. But basically this short story is a critique on the lack of autonomy that women had, especially in medicine, when it came to their own bodies within the 19th century. And it's just like it's like a thing in feminist literature. And if you are interested, I think you should give it a read, because it's literally like 25 pages. 25. It's literally 15 pages. Like, come on. You could read that. You could read that so good. And it's really cool. So she's in this home. They've diagnosed her with whatever the fucking shit that doesn't even really exist. And then instead of getting her real help, they're like, you just need to breathe, you need to walk, you need to do this and that. And so in the room that she's staying in, there's this yellow wallpaper on one of the walls. And I don't know, I mean, here's like an idea of what it might look like, right? But then she sees the shapes moving, and she sees this like creature behind the wallpaper moving and scratching to get out. And she keeps watching the wallpaper and keeps watching it change. And at some point she starts ripping the wallpaper off and like talking about how she's gonna free the woman, and then her husband comes in and checks on her, and she's the one crawling on the floor like a little exorcist freak, and she's like, I'm free, you can never put me back, la la la. So she was the woman in the wallpaper, and it's just a really good story. Next honorable mention, A Little Life. Now, hold on. This is not for everyone. I don't really know if it is for me. That's why it's not one of my favorites, but it is an honorable mention. The writing is incredible. It's incredible. I don't think any book has ever evoked such emotion from me like this one. One where I could physically feel what was happening in the book I could feel it happening to myself. There were times where I had to literally close the book, put it down, and step away and come back to it the next day or take an hour break or something like that, because that's how heavy it got. This book is very content heavy, and if you are someone that gets triggered easily or has been through a lot in your life, I would be very hesitant to approach this book, and I would do a lot of research on what it contains. There's mentions of self-harm, of sexual assault, it's heavy, but the writing is fantastic. And also there's like this big debate over whether some of the more graphic scenes needed to be included in this book or whether they could have just been cut out. And I see both sides of the argument. I don't really have a side, because I think stuff like this is important to talk about and discuss, but did it need to be so graphically depicted? I don't think so. But also, that is the style, that is the art, that is the way that this author wanted to write. So who am I to, you know what I mean? So I don't really know. I don't really know where I stand with it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you liked it. And let me know if you read any of the books. Get a library card. People need to start going to public libraries more, especially now that they're being defunded from the Trump administration. So go support your local libraries. Thank you. And yeah. Okay guys, love you so much. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Mwah.